to order the joint meeting of the Minnehaha County and the Sioux Falls Planning Commissions. Like last time, we'll begin with a few introductory comments. Ken Dunlap to my right will be chairing for the city, and I'll be chairing for the county. Ken, did you have a...
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to introduce a new member of the Sioux Falls Planning Commission. This is Sharon Santos. This is her first county meeting. Her first city meeting was last month.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you.
Again, as a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure your cell phones are turned off. The two planning commissions work together on land use and zoning matters that are within the rural areas surrounding the city, and that area is shown in blue on the map. After information and testimony is presented in an agenda item, the members will discuss the matter, and each planning commission will vote independently to arrive at a decision. Any final action taken on a conditional use permit request will take effect 5 working days following this meeting, unless a written appeal of tonight's decision is filed with the county planning office by Monday, June 29th at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the county commission and the city council for a joint meeting on Tuesday, July 28th at 5 p.m. When the joint agenda is complete, the Minnehaha County City Commission, the City Planning Commission will adjourn, and the meeting will continue as the County Planning Commission considers items beyond the joint jurisdiction. At this time, the Planning Commissions will consider the consent agenda. The minutes from the February 23rd meeting are included in the consent agenda. Are there any objections from the Planning Commission members to any item on the consent agenda?
None on the city side.
Okay, at this time I'll read the items on the consent agenda, and if there's anyone in the audience that would like to have it moved to the regular agenda, please raise your hand and we'll do so. First is the minutes of the February 23rd, 2015 meeting. Second is a conditional use permit 15-40. This is to exceed 1,200 square feet of total accessory building, and they're requesting 1,720 square feet on property that's approximately a half mile north of Sioux Falls. The third item is a conditional use permit 15-36 to allow a single-family dwelling on property that is located a half a mile north of Sioux Falls. No objections to the consent agenda for those two items. Those are the items on the consent agenda. Entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
So a motion and a second to approve. Is there discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And those items are approved on both county and city side. So those are approved. There are no old or new agenda items. If you're here for those items, you're free to go. The joint meeting will adjourn, and we will resume as a county.
I think David wants to give a quick briefing on the comp plan.
I'm going to give a quick briefing on the Envision 2035 comprehensive plan. I can bring up PowerPoint, but just explaining the process. The County Commission adopted on June 16th at their County Commission hearing and scheduled a public hearing. The plan is available for inspection in the County Auditor's Office. And just quickly going through everything as far as I guess I would say the meat of the plan in terms of the population employment analysis, things that were looked at in terms of the strong urban-rural population and the dichotomy that exists between some of the major municipalities and in the rural area, and then expanding and aging workforce as well, and the shifting demographics that play into. Just give it a little bit of background on what the plan is based on, in managing regional highway and air transportation systems, effectively managing improvements to the transportation system as needed. And just going through, I'll let Kevin briefly touch on the existing land use in that section of the plan.
Well, the existing land use in general, I would have to say that we are predominantly still agricultural county, even within the city of Sioux Falls and other municipalities. Municipalities make up 11% of the county, or just over, and the agricultural makes up just under 80% of the county for land mass-wise. And then there's residential and non-residential uses beyond that, so that make up the rest.
Skipping forward to the growth management section, as Kevin mentioned, we're an agriculturally dominant economy. Things that were looked at in 2012, there was over 78% farmland, according to the agricultural census, the Census of Agriculture. And other things that were brought up during the process were local food study or community food system to help support the agricultural industry, to help identify opportunities for code revisions to help simplify the permitting process for local and entrepreneurial operations. And another thing was agricultural tourism and working with the state South Dakota Tourism Department, and helping to promote what we have in the state to people that are outside and promoting South Dakota grown. And two other things that were brought up by the task force committee that was appointed by the county commission are issues regarding revising standards for building eligibility transfers. As you know, there's the 1 per 40 acre, 16 per section beyond the transition area, and creating more restrictive standards so that maybe looking at being able to move those to areas that have the capability for sanitary sewer, things like that, and trying to limit those density in a much, so you don't have the conflicts between agricultural operators and residential residents who want to move out to the country. It was one of the things that was considered. And then reverse setback standards for dwellings from concentrated animal feeding operations was another thing that was brought up during the process. Something that needed to be addressed during the funding period out to 2035 over the next 20 years. Kevin talked about.
And then there was a plan element of rural conservation. We looked at the items of historic preservation, natural character, farming and community, and housing density. And David touched on housing density with the most of the housing density is clustered around Sioux Falls, and it gets more and more sparse as you move away. And the possibility of transferring those densities is a big portion of that particular chapter. So.
Skipping forward, the environmental stewardship chapter is really the demand on natural resources supply and the impact that has on wildlife habitat management, keeping and maintaining that resource supply, and taking best management practices in some of the county and state parks, and determining and implementing best management practices. Minnehaha County was identified by the Environmental Protection Agency as meeting the criteria for a municipal separate storm sewer system, primarily for the areas outside the city of Sioux Falls and some of the larger residential developments just between the Brandon area and some in the southwest, which is to be fully implemented a stormwater management plan that addresses things like illicit discharges and pollution prevention, as I mentioned, around major residential developments and natural features, is things like promoting those best management practices, like things like filter strips that help slow down the surface water runoff and capture that rainwater. Another big thing about that is the public education and outreach campaign, participation and involvement from residents within the county and the rural area. And then the transportation plan is really coming back to the significance of freight transportation on the regional and national system. As in the 2010 state rail plan, the volumes by weight category, couple of projections as far as their 2040 demand. This is for the entire state, just to give you a reference, is by rails, the 2040 demand is 84% through the state. And then truck, on the other hand, is 2040 change, is 91% within the state, 201% from South Dakota, and 125% to the state. So again, keeping up with those and managing that effectively. And other things like projected population growth in municipalities and access management, which the County Highway Department is working on that policy and implementing that. And road and bridge maintenance, which is another key issue of those key factors. In managing that with the Metropolitan Planning Organization and Department of Transportation in cities and counties. Another thing is recognizing the importance of regional and nationwide movement and identify connections to municipal trails and routes with multi-use pathways and wide shoulders, which the County Highway Department is looking at a couple of different options based on some input from the public throughout the process, as well as meeting with different stakeholder groups, Sioux Falls Transportation Planning and other groups, other bicycling organizations within the county, identifying motorized and transportation and recreation uses on some of the routes, primarily around Sioux Falls and some of the larger cities, but also kind of playing on the idea of connecting communities and connecting what we have with the county parks and state parks, and allowing people an opportunity to get there in other means other than driven in by an automobile if they wanted to ride their bicycle or take a jog there or do something like that. And I'll let Kevin touch on the future land use plan.
Well, for the future land use plan, it's kind of difficult to show without a map, but we've divided the county into 4 different areas: agricultural production area, transition area, rural service areas, and development corridors. The agricultural production area being just that, areas where we like to expand and grow farming. Transition areas where the cities and municipalities are growing out, and farming as a long term may not be such a wise choice and growing, but possibly even growing certain other types of uses, smaller scale farming, that sort of thing. Rural service areas where development can occur, such as businesses that have already identified areas on the map. And then development corridors, which have more areas, more planning to do, I guess. In order to prevent strip-style development along the highways, the development corridors would get together in these small groups of communities along the highways to more specifically plan zoning within those and rules, the ordinances involved with those specific corridors for kind of future use.
And that's really all we have. If you have any comments, you can send them to us. If you want to read through the plan, it's available on the website Envision 2035, as you may be aware already. And check that out. Give us some comments until the plan becomes effective on July 15th. It's 20 days. It's a 20-day effective period after the County Commission approved a resolution, so the effective date would be July 15th. Other than that, if you have any questions, so.
Staff and a lot of great volunteers put in a lot of good time. It's a nice plan. It's been some time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks. Now we're adjourned.
Adjourned.
Thank you. Adjourned. Okay. See you in 3 weeks.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
Take care.
Good 4th of July.
Behind you.
Good 4th of July.
Thank you. I was. Was I on your tail?